In the far future, where mankind teeters on the edge of annihilation, only the strongest will survive in this eternal war. Today, we'll explore the unforgiving universe of Warhammer 40k Space Marines 2 as we return to the brutal, unrelenting battles of the 41st millennium in service of the one true Emperor. I'm Morgan, and I'll be your host as we suit up to suppress heresy in this full review of Space Marine 2. The story of Space Marine 2 picks up roughly 200 years after the original Space Marine game, or at least that's what we're led to believe based on the 2 additional service studs Titus has acquired. Though we're never given any concrete information on this other than a brief mention of his time serving in the Death Watch. The main campaign spans 6 missions, which took us roughly 11 hours to complete on veteran difficulty. Some people have voiced complaints about the campaign's length, but personally, we didn't find it to be an issue. This is because each mission felt very well crafted, taking just over an hour to complete. Now, to be fully transparent, I was initially confused by the story as I hadn't played the first Space Marine game. However, after watching a video from My Name is Biff, which not only covered the original game, but a lot of the lore behind the Space Marines, everything began to click, and I finally understood the trials that Titus had to overcome. Overall, I not only enjoyed the story, but the journey of learning some Warhammer history. The visuals are extremely well crafted, doing a fantastic job of portraying the grimdark universe in which Warhammer takes place. The combat is brutal and gory, offering you the ability to execute every enemy either with melee weapons or your bare hands. The worlds are covered in destruction caused by centuries of war, and most technology is often infused with some organic humanoid life form. It's things like this that really set Warhammer apart from the rest. The cutscenes were also very well done, but as mentioned earlier, if you didn't play the previous game, you might miss some of the underlying messages. Regardless of that, some of these were just a downright spectacle to behold. Overall, I greatly enjoyed the game's visuals, especially the animations of dismantling your enemies. The audio in Space Marine 2 provides a decent addition to amplify the brutal combat experience. The bolters in the game offer very impactful sounds with every shot, while the chainsword provides gushing sounds of enemies being ripped apart. This can also be experienced even further by the pure strength and brutality of a Space Marine, as he often uses his bare hands during executions. Finally, I felt the voice acting of Clive Standen, who portrayed Titus, did an excellent job and hope to see him continue the role in the future. Overall, the audio might not have been anything revolutionary, but still offered just enough to bring this immersive experience to life. Now it's time to get into the gameplay, which should feel very familiar if you've ever played Gears of War. The major difference here is that, unlike in Gears, you're frequently swarmed by what feels like 1,000 enemies. And yes, all the enemies you see are real, these are not just some background filler. In order to overcome the swarms of enemies, you'll need to be aggressive, as this is the only way to rebuild your health and shield, outside of the occasional stim pack you may find lying around. Unlike most other games, you can't just sit around and wait for your HP to regenerate. If you want health, you'll have to take it. The combat is a mix of ranged and melee attacks, though most of the guns felt somewhat underwhelming compared to the Melter Rifle, which had an incredible clearing power and damage. Its drawbacks was its range, ammo capacity, and reload time, but its raw power made up for these limitations. With melee combat, it was a bit harder to pick a favorite weapon. While the chainsword quickly tears through enemies, offering some quality entertainment, the Thunderhammer offered AoE lightning strikes, turning your enemies to ash. Personally, I enjoyed the melee combat more than the gunplay, but there are going to be times where you're punished for relying too much on hacking and slashing. Once you've whittled an enemy's health down, they'll flash red, indicating that they can be executed. Performing an execution will recover any of your health currently in white, and you'll gain back 1 bar of your shield. This is what I was referring to earlier and is what makes aggressive play crucial for survival. Another way to recover health is through the game's defensive mechanic, which involves parrying enemy attacks. When you see an enemy with this blue target, it signals that an attack can be parried. If timed correctly, you'll prevent the attack and regenerate some health. However, if an enemy has an orange target, this means their attack cannot be parried and you'll need to dodge it. If you do run out of health, your teammates can revive you. If you're playing solo, this responsibility falls upon your 2 NPC teammates. Each mission is completed with a squad of 3 and you're allowed 3 downs per area. Any more than that and the mission fails, requiring a restart from the last checkpoint. Your NPC teammates are essentially bullet sponges who never run out of ammo. The only real drawback is they're not good with main objectives. The difficulty of the game can be as extreme as you want, with 4 options available to choose from. For the first playthrough, we chose Veteran, as we wanted a bit of a challenge, but nothing so tough that it made us want to hurl the keyboard out of frustration.
Rise, Titus. Your duty is not yet done.
The current content in Space Marine 2 can be broken down into 3 categories: the campaign, operations, and eternal war. The campaign consists of 6 missions taking you across 3 different planets, expanding on the story of Titus. Each mission is relatively long with multiple checkpoints. These checkpoints allow you to take a break at any time, saving your current state for when you return. This also allows you to return back to the main hub if you need to swap out your loadout. Almost every mission was well paced, with very little downtime outside of the resupply breaks. My personal favorite missions were the ones that required you to hold on an area while hundreds of Tyranids swarmed your position. This provided an excellent sense of how overwhelming the swarm can be, and why they're referred to as the Great Devourers. There was, however, one mission none of us enjoyed. The one we're referring to involved using a flamethrower to clear infestations while activating a generator. The flamethrower felt a bit buggy and didn't always repel the swarm properly. Since this is the only time you used a flamethrower, it might not have received the same level of care as other weapons. With that said, having one rough mission didn't impact the overall fun we were having. Next, let's talk about operations, which are your main source of PvE content after completing the campaign. While you can access it before finishing the campaign, it's strongly recommended you do so after, since it does contain spoilers. In operations, you can pick from 6 different classes, each with their own loadouts, skills, and perks. Completing operations earns you experience, which unlocks new class and weapon perks, as well as cosmetics. With this many classes and weapons, there's a lot of grinding if you want to max everything out. Personally, this is where I spent most of my time after beating the main campaign, as I prefer PvE over PvP. Now let's talk about Eternal War for all those interested in the PvP portion. This is broken up between 3 separate modes. The first is called Seize Ground. In this mode, there are 3 separate points you need to capture, and the team that holds the most points the longest will win the match. Next, there was Capture and Control. This one only had 1 point to capture, however the point would move locations and would need to be recaptured. Finally, there's Annihilation, which is a team deathmatch, and the team that gets to 50 points first wins. As I said before, I'm not big into PvP and shooters, so I didn't spend much time here, though I'm glad they included it for those who are.
You need justify your recklessness. The traitors have a debt to me.
Let's get into the monetization, as this is a bit of a hot topic. The game is buy to own and recently dropped their first battle pass over on Steam. This has created some mixed reviews, as a lot of people don't want to have to pay extra to have access to everything. But just to clear things up, the battle pass is purely cosmetic and is only for those who wish to help support the dev team further. Now, we're not trying to defend them or anything, but it is going to cost them some money to keep the servers on and continue development. With that said, the Season Pass is going to set you back a whopping $40, so you might want to be sure to set aside some additional funds if you plan on picking these up. We've officially hit that time in the video where we like to break things down into the good and the bad, but as always, these are our own opinions because experiences may vary. Now, let's get into the good. Executions are not only extremely satisfying to watch, but also regenerate your shield and health, encouraging aggressive play. The visuals are outstanding, providing one of the best, if not the best, grimdark experiences I've seen. The pacing is excellent, keeping you engaged with hordes of enemies and very little downtime. The combat is extremely fun, providing a well-balanced melee to ranged horde-slaying experience. The game can be very challenging on higher difficulties or toned down for a more casual experience. PvP mode is available for those looking to test their skills and gain honor for their faction. All classes can be customized with a variety of options ranging from perks to armor skins. That covers our list of the good. Now we must turn to the bad. Luckily, there's only a handful here, and some of them are just bugs, which hopefully will be adjusted in the near future. The NPCs under your command are essentially bullet sponges whose primary role is to revive you. The campaign is relatively short, with only 6 missions that can be completed in roughly 10 hours. Field of view was often an issue due to how close the camera was combined with the overall size of a Space Marine. There's no option to save loadouts, meaning you have to return to the armory between missions to ensure your equipment is correct. There were some bugs outside of the ones you were killing, such as enemies shooting through walls and issues with objects pickup locations. Then there's the connection issues that would cause you to have to restart the client in order to reconnect. We did attempt to reconnect from the main menu, however, that was a no-go.
For the Emperor! For the Emperor!
Space Marine 2 is a game that not only picks up where the original left off, but improves upon it in almost every way. It offers improved controls and visuals that immerse you in a visually captivating grimdark universe while constantly bombarding you with hordes of enemies, forcing you to fight for every inch of ground in the name of the Emperor. That's going to bring this review to an end. If you've played Space Marine 2, or you plan on it, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed for future reviews like this one. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.